Friendship, that's such an interesting topic and has so much relevance for all of us. Last week, we worked with some of the types of relationships that we have. Low vigilance friends, people that we can relax around, people that we trust. We look forward to seeing them. We have a relatively equal relationship over time. There's not kind of one person who talks all the time and the other one who doesn't really get a chance. We tend to have more fun, a sense of humor. Higher vigilance friends, too, we don't have to be judgmental about that. Some people we have good reasons for staying friends with, even though they are a little bit more difficult to be around. But some of the qualities of higher vigilant friends include being tense around them. We might dread seeing them. We're careful what we share, especially if we've been judged by them in the past. And we kind of walk on eggshells a bit. We're a little bit more vigilant. And then we looked into what the experience was in our body when we were bringing to mind someone who was a bit lower vigilance for us, someone who's a bit higher. One of the things about being in relationships with people who we can't relax quite as much with, it's not a yes, no. It's not like, well, I'm not going to hang out with you if you don't have a regulated nervous system. It's more just to notice, what does it cost me to be around people who are really anxious or who are in a fight response? Again, there's not a right or wrong answer to this. We're just looking into, I think we would all like to have friends who care about us, are kind and respectful. And we all want to be that kind of a friend to ourselves as well. We are influenced by our friends. And they've done a bunch of studies on this, which I think is always pretty interesting. The 4 people you spend the most time with have a big influence on your life. We tend to have similar thinking patterns, eating patterns, habits, all kinds of things are similar. I think some of it is because we're attracted to people who are same, and some of it probably is that we're just influenced by the friends that we're around. Bring to mind someone who you consider a pretty close friend, and what is it you like about that person, and what is it you don't like? So just off the top of your head, kind of brainstorming here. Bring to mind somebody that you can work with in this inquiry. Maybe you really like that you have a lot of fun together, or you like that they're reliable, really consistent. What do you like about this person? And what are some of the things that you kind of put up with, but they're not ideal? Maybe you don't like the way they go drinking on the weekends and you don't drink anymore, so you're kind of left out, or whatever that might be. So, what do you like and what do you not like? Give that a moment. And are you comfortable enough to really be yourself? Are you being careful about what you say, or do you feel safe enough to disagree? To just really be authentic. Sometimes in a relationship, we're kind of anxious about being liked and we find ourselves agreeing or fawning, maybe. Take that for a minute or two into consideration. Do you feel safe enough to be authentic with this person? Can you relax and just be yourself? And notice how that feels in your body. You might have a little video clip coming up of you kind of agreeing with something that you actually don't agree with. Take a few breaths, notice your body. If you're shaming yourself or if your inner critic is coming in, see if you could let that go. We're just looking, we're inquiring. As we're looking into that, we also could look at fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Am I usually in a survival strategy with this person? Or maybe not usually, but sometimes or often. And of those survival strategies, what's more likely? We were just looking at fawning or feeling anxious about being liked. But do you find that you get all kind of stirred up and your adrenaline's racing in your body, and maybe you have a mutual enemy kind of a thing where you both rant and rave about the other political party or drivers or whatever that might be? Do you find yourself feeling kind of numb and disconnected either while you're with the friend or after? Looking into this question of being your highest self, we're all on this journey of, I don't even like to call it self improvement because that's not really what it is. It's more of connecting in with our own basic goodness. And we all have patterns and habits that are not all that conducive. We also have a commitment to being our higher self. So when you think about this friend, is this someone who you betray yourself around? Do you gossip instead of being kinder? Whatever your old patterns are, is this something that's an issue for this friendship that you tend to get kind of caught up in that? Changing the way we are in the world takes a lot of practice. It's not a one and done. So we don't have to shame ourselves for this. Just to notice maybe there's something about this friendship where you could be your highest self, where you're really encouraged to be more present, kinder. Just to look at that question, am I my highest self most often or more often with this friend? Or do I find myself kind of devolving into old patterns? Notice your body, notice the sensations and energy. Monitor the thoughts in your mind. Are you being mean inner critic? Maybe you have some little memories coming forward of something you said or something they said. Or maybe you could reverse this as well. Maybe this friend really wants to stop gossiping in this example and is committing to be kinder, but then you kind of get involved in sharing some juicy thing and maybe sensing that they're a little bit disappointed in you. There's a lot of ways that this can go. We're not always the one who's taking the higher ground, but we could always look into this. What's my experience with this? Can I be myself and be my higher self? Can I be myself and not feel judged? Give this a couple of minutes to sit with all the nuances of friendships. Maybe bring up an image of your friend. Is this someone who you can talk with about this? And then moving into what could you do to deepen your connection? So at this point, you might be like, well, you know what? I actually don't know if I want to deepen my connection with this person. Or maybe it's, well, I kind of would, but I don't really have a lot of confidence that it's going to work out. From what I know about them, I don't think they're actually maybe interested, or maybe their capacity is not what it could be right now. What changes could I make to deepen our connection? The answer to that might be, you know what, I'm just going to set a few more boundaries and kind of back away from this person a bit. And that might be a healthy boundary, or it might be that you're going into kind of flight response, giving up on somebody. So, again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. We're just looking to see. So, let's bring to mind, it might be the same person or it might be somebody different, but bring to mind this friend who you'd like a deeper connection with, and be strong in your body. Breathe, be grounded. Notice you're supported here. At any time during this, you could look around the room, notice cues of safety. You could hold your own hands, you could breathe. So, with this specific individual and relationship, what do you want it to be like? I want this person and relationship to be. And if there's a lot of things coming forward, you could pick one to work with. Well, what I want in this relationship is I want to be able to say, I'm going to interrupt you now. I don't feel comfortable with the way this conversation's going. Could we pull it back and talk about something else? It might be something like that. So, what would the words be? You could bring a lot of your other senses into this as well. Maybe you're always meeting in a coffee shop or something, or maybe you generally go for a walk together, or so you could bring in the context, the location. You could bring in an image of that person. And it takes courage, it takes strength. We only do this if we can afford to do this. Sometimes we're a little shy about putting forward something because we're not too sure what's going to happen. What is it that you would like to change here? Feel that it's okay for you to want this. And in fact, it might be really kind of sweet for you to say, I feel so disconnected from you at times. I noticed lately you've been kind of going on and on about this person at work who's a bully. And I do want to be there and support you. And I also feel kind of invisible right now. I want to have more of a connection with you. So let's give this a little bit of time to ripen. What is it that you want? And not necessarily what you think you can get, but what would you like? And then let yourself walk through that. How would you start the conversation? What are the words that you would want to say? And then you could say the words out loud. Otherwise, you could visualize yourself and imagine that you're saying those words. Notice the look on their face, maybe a likely response. Let's give ourselves some time to really sit with this. What is it you want? What would you say? And then really stay in your body. So sometimes we can get off into kind of, well, they'll probably do this and then this. So we're not really going too far down the road of the conversation. We're more staying with, this is what I'd like to say at the beginning. Ooh, what does that feel like in your body to imagine that you're going to say that? And then what does it feel like as you're visualizing yourself saying that and perhaps noticing the look on their face, their response? And the energy in our body can tell us a lot. Where is the energy in your body? Or are you feeling connected at all? Maybe you've gone kind of cold and disconnected. And you could take a few deeper breaths or rub your hands together or something. Maybe it's a feeling of dread in your gut. Oh, I don't know if I can risk this. Notice the sensations. Notice any associated thoughts. Well, there was that time 30 years ago when I did risk saying something, and I don't have that friend anymore. There's a lot of history we often have with this. We could give ourselves a moment to acknowledge something like that if that's here. Try to keep your breath as smooth and continuous as you can. Keep your breath in your awareness. Notice your nervous system, what's happening. Are you going into feeling kind of testy and irritated? Are you going into a bit of a flight or a freeze? It's helpful to allow ourselves to want something different, to really be honest about what we need, what we want. And the truth of what we have might not be exactly that. But there's something about this relationship where we feel like there's at least a possibility that if I'm honest and if I'm more authentic, that we could create a deeper connection. Is that worth the risk? How does that feel in your body as you contemplate that and as you practice saying that? And if it feels kind of impossible, if you find that your mind has gone somewhere else, or you're feeling kind of frightened or shutting down or something, maybe you could imagine something a little bit different. Maybe what you're originally planning to say isn't what's possible right now, but is there something else, maybe? Or maybe as you're practicing that out loud, you're noticing, wow, that was kind of shaming what I was going to say. What is it I really want? Come back into your heart. And how could you ask for that in a way that would be kind and realistic? What is the person's capacity? What's your capacity? What does your heart know about what you want in this relationship? Just to remember that we're not actually in this conversation right now. We're just thinking about it, imagining it, noticing the response that our nervous system is having to this potential bid for connection. One of the great things about doing this in advance is that we can see, well, I'm going to do a bit of a course correction there. I'm not actually going to do that. I'm going to ask for this instead, or I'm going to say this instead. Or maybe as you're looking at it, it's like, you know what? This is going to blow up. I know it's going to, or at least I'm pretty sure it will. I'm not going to take the risk. I want to just enjoy what there is to enjoy here in this relationship. And I'm not going to try and make something out of it that it's not. As we're coming to the end of the inquiry, notice what came through your mind and in through your body and where you're at right now with it. Is this something you want to work with, and how do you want to work with that? What are some of the elements that came up when you were looking at it?